Nico London, and you're now locked in with Kelly Kell on 258 Radio. Here's my new single.
It's your girl, French in Hell. Check out my girl, Kelly Kells, on LipglossNMics every Friday night at 11 p.m.
Shit. Wait. All right, before we get to the song, okay, I just want to let y'all know that tonight I have an awesome guest on with me, and his name is Ricardo Spicer. Well, actually, wait, you know, he's gonna pick on me for this. You know this, right? His name. But anyways, he's an awesome person. That's all I can basically say. You're going to see how much knowledge and talent and all that great stuff in the interview. So let me get to the group Sweat Beats, okay? You have to pay attention. If you watch a lot of series, you'll hear a lot of their music come up in scores of soundtracks. He's got beats. He's done so much. I can't even, he's going to have to explain all that to y'all, okay? But I want you to check out our first song. It's called Shit Talker. And then I'm going to let you go into one that he did with Killer Mike, Ric Flair, which was one of my favorites. So I had to play that too.
Shit Everything I'm about to say is true. I was born this way, baby, what you want me to do? I was born this way, baby, what you want me to do? Now bon appetit, yeah. Be you that good every day, you say la vie, yeah. Bring it out of you, baby, now you're living all wild and free. I know you coming back with me when you say you don't usually. So many levels of love, I think the top one is you. Might just wake up tomorrow and find me right next to you. Girl, you too smart to believe it, but you know half of it's true. My words make you think you need it, cause baby, you know I'm a smooth shit talker. I'm a smooth shit talker. Now that I said it, yeah, gotta back it up if I don't, you'll never forget it. Ooh, tonight, baby, we gon' see. Already know what you gon' be with me. Now, bon appetit, yeah. Be you that good every day, you say la vie, yeah. Bring it out of you, baby, now you're living all wild and free. I know you coming back with me when you say you don't usually. So many levels of love, I think the top one is you. Might just wake up tomorrow and find me right next to you. Girl, you too smart to believe it, but you know half of it's true. My words make you think you need it, cause baby, you know I'm a smooth shit talker. I'm a smooth shit talker.
I'm going on tour, and I'm going to show anybody out there that thinks for 1 second that maybe I'm second-guessing myself that I am the greatest of all time forever and ever. One surprise. I'm back.
To make it out the ice cold streets of the city, you better have a Christopher word game with it. You better have a dance game similar to Diddy, or play b-baller but a rim like Smitty. Josh, Chris, Bosh, Paul, Gasol, or any other nigga that ball and tall. I used to sell it white as Paul Wall. Gave my young boy 3 of them in the mall, and he gon' bring me 75K back tomorrow. You know what big about. You know what bigger do. Ice water in my veins, hard pumping igloo. I'm familiar with the money, so who the fuck is you? What the fuck you do? Where the fuck you from? Who you knowin'? Somebody get this nigga, I don't know him. And I'm about to jet off on his ass like a Boeing. Gone. Song.
You don't like the prestige that I have in life? You don't like the notoriety? You detest the fact that I got more cars than most of you have friends. I got a big house. message the way I want it.
To make it out the ice cold streets of the city, your mind state gotta be as wicked as fitted. Can't love life suckling on mama's titty, cause life is a bitch and a bitch ain't with it. You gotta have faith living life on biggie. I'm ready to die for the money, who is with me? Life after death, hey, this must be hell. I asked for 6 figures, God gave back self. I'm on my way to heaven in a Porsche 911. Buried in my car and I'm surrounded by a harem. Surrounded by my brethren, my funeral is legend. Buried like a pharaoh with my jewelry in the desert. The government that hate me like Jesus, but fuck 'em. I did it for the grind, I did it for the hustle, I did it for the people on the bottom in the struggle. I did it for my comrades, did it cause I love them.
Custom made, brother. And I mean custom made. From the alligators to the Olympic City right here. Ric Flair. There's only one. And I don't care if it's Tokyo, Japan, Greensboro, Richmond, Charlotte, North Carolina, Asheville, Atlanta, Georgia, Charlotte, LA. I'm the man that's making it possible.
To make it out the ice cold streets of the city, you gotta politic your situations like Clinton. If you chase power, you ain't gotta chase women. So take some advice, take cash over ass. When you get money, you ain't gotta take shit. So long as you broke, she ain't gotta take dick. Capiche? Now you know what motivates your beast. Capiche? Pay the mortgage or the pussy up for lease. Capiche? Church ladies going gaga for the Gucci. Yeah. Got 2 niggas menaging for some Louis. Yeah. I'm with the keys, get acquainted with Alicia. And every other girl named Rihanna wanna meet ya. They in it for the money, got the swag of the features. Pretty parasites might suck you like leeches. Just some information for a student from a teacher. Real life shit, I'm Mike Bigger, nice to meet you. Gone.
At Delta, the girls call me Cool. At Eastern, the girls call me Slick Rick. And all the other women around the world just say, oh, there goes the man.
Alright, y'all. So, now that you heard, my favorite was Ric Flair. I ain't gonna lie, I love the one before it too, but you know what? Ric Flair, you know how that is, Rick. That's just like, you know, my favorite.
Nice.
Alright, so, I don't even know where to start with you. This is just so amazing, and I had time to catch up with you, and you're always on the go, so I didn't even think that I'd be able to catch up with you.
No, I appreciate the outreach, as always, Kelly. I mean, you've always been a champion of the cause, whether it's, you know, one thing or another, whether it's at a label, whether it's not a label, whether it's the independent work, and I appreciate you always spreading the gospel, so anytime you send up the bat signal, that means I gotta be there, you know what I mean?
Right, and you know what? I see the growth with you. It's just been crazy, and you know, I was adding up. Okay, first, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Ricardo Spicer, born and raised out of Cleveland, a little spot called Shaker Heights, Ohio, but the music industry was a calling of mine at an early age, and it allowed me to see many places and do different things, whether it be, you know, establishing myself at the University of Michigan, learning the ways of DJ and production, putting together artists, putting together events, and getting my foot in the door in Detroit's heyday while Dylan was still alive doing his thing, and some great artists coming out of that Detroit scene, and then ultimately leading myself down here to Atlanta by way of, you know, record labels and such. And I've been blessed enough to have it's going on now, to be crazy to say, but nearly an 18-year career in the music industry and basically being paid by hip-hop for nearly 2 decades, and all I can say is it's been a blessing. That's it.
Yeah, that is a blessing. And you know what? This man alone, he's saying 18 years, and out of 18 years, I've known you for 12 as an associate.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that crazy? I just realized it when I was doing the research. I'm like, oh my God, it goes back that far. You know, I'm like, this is just wild. So Ricardo and I met through when I was with Transworld Entertainment. He was actually one of my A&Rs. If that's what your position was, right? A&R.
It's not A&R. It's actually what it used to be called is ADR. ADR was a misnomer, though, because obviously, you know, the thing about the music industry is they love putting titles and labels on certain things, and it sounds like it's one thing, but it's something else, but it was an artist development rep. So it was my job to basically take not only the established artists from Universal, but Universal Music and video distribution at the time, then it transformed into Universal Music Group, and then I ended up going to work at Def Jam, but was to make sure we expose and amplify the brands of each individual band and artist that was under the label, and then make sure they had a presence in the market. Learning what consumer behavior was looking like at the time, checking out SoundScan, checking out BDS reports, realizing what records were moving in certain markets, and then supplementing that with resources from a marketing standpoint, whether it be at retail, whether it was consumer activations, bringing artists to town, tour support, and really getting the artists to put 10 toes deep in the marketplace, establish their brand there, and really have more outreach to consumers. So it felt a little bit more of a personal relationship with that market, more so than just, hey, I'm stopping through real quick, but, doing the hard work. So it was me taking bands and artists around to every market throughout the Southeast, blazing the trail up and down every freeway, every street, every corner, every record store, barbershops, venues, lifestyle locations, but really trying to make sure that we had a secure vision of what this artist was about, what product they were putting out there, and make sure we had the support around them so people would actually know where to buy the product.
Yeah, it was some crazy like guerrilla guru everything marketing, and I will admit it. Like you work with a lot, and the position I was in, you get so many different people coming at you from different labels and just different things. But you know what, Ricardo, you Gretchen and Chris, and I would say maybe two were like the most supportive and the most. Every show he brought through House of Blues, I was there. I got to work with them, and I got to, like sell. I mean, I even made like friends with some of the groups that, it was just like, hey, and I mean, we had a ball. It wasn't like a starstruck thing. It was like, okay, this is competition. You know what I mean? I got this. Ludacris, all these different contests that we would enter. And my store went hard on it. And then when I'd be taking out, and go on tours and things, it was just like, it was wild. But Ricardo has supported me not just on a level of, the tours and things like that. It was, I remember I was doing a whole thing. We have a thing down here in the Carolinas. It's a bike fest every year. And for years, it was always shunned away from the malls and things. And he supported it one year. Sent me, I don't know how many goodie bags for these.
I think it had to have been hundreds of goodie bags.
Yep.
Chock full of every artist on our roster at the time. But, and I want to go back to something that you were saying and why it was important for me to make sure I supported you, is because, during that, I don't want to say it was the golden era of the music industry, but it was the tail end of the traditional music industry as we knew it. Before, I mean, people were still downloading, and obviously, bootlegging was kind of the specter that the industry was trying to fight. But the point being was really making sure that we supported folks who supported us, right? It was people like yourself. It was people that would really try to help amplify what these artists were trying to say and amplify what Def Jam was trying to do at the time. Because, like you said, every label rep would have to try to get space and try to fight for, whether it was retail space or trying to fight for bigger exposure for their artists. But it really is all, and one thing that, even though back in the day was a little different, the thing that remained was it was about relationships, right?
Right.
You had a strong relationship with people in that market. They would look out for you, and ultimately those relationships would turn into not only sales, but then impressions, and therefore it would make it a lot easier for an artist to move around. I remember, especially when it came to like Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, though the Bike Fest is one of those events that made the city kind of pay attention to what was going on, and people paid attention to what was going on in that marketplace. So it was an easy opportunity, or not I won't say easy, but it was a prime opportunity to really break artists and a prime opportunity to break records. And I use the word break records because, that's almost like a dying term nowadays.
Right.
Breaking records is kind of like putting your record out there and then making it go viral, I guess. It was viral before going viral, if you will. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, the reason I felt like I needed to send you as much point of purchase material, and whether it be posters or whether it was added value material, the reason why it was so effective is because, it was more than just buying a CD. It was really giving a true value for the whole CD purchasing experience. And now, while that may be old school, the same thing goes for today. Like, you have to really make an experience for a consumer for them to even pay attention to you, because there's so much noise out here. I mean, shoot, when back in the day when we were working together hand in hand, you know, there was a lot of artists. Now you can throw a rock outside your window and you're hitting 50 artists at a time. Everybody can rap, everybody produces, everyone sings, everyone wants to do it. And now there's so much noise. The same kind of ethos applies now as it did back in the day when I was sending you all those goodie bags. It's like you have to make the purchase or the experience of consuming music an experience for folks, because that now that, you know, however much you want to spend on that Apple Music subscription or that Spotify premium subscription, and then for somebody to even download. Before we were battling for people to purchase. Now we're battling for space on your hard drive. We're battling for space on your phone. But the experience is what makes people clear that space out, and I don't need this app, or I don't need this song, or I don't need this set of stuff that's clouding up my memory, but I need to have this album or have these songs on my playlist or have them in my library. So it's still the same thing, just in a different form. So that's why back in the day, it was, biking was going down. Well, we need to make sure we cover this as much as possible to expose folks to what this music is going to look like and what this artist is sounding like. So, yeah, that's why it was important to me.
Yeah, and it was. I loved it anyway. It's my passion. So, and what's crazy about it is you just kept going too. I mean, there was no stopping. Like I had everything, and then corporate was with me. And the reason I ended up leaving corporate was because of I felt like a robot. It started changing, like you said, and the industry was just it wasn't that people experience anymore. And I had that with my customers, you know what I mean? Like they would come and tell me what to order and what to do and you know, which shows. And I mean, it was just crazy. And I had fought for a lot of things, and it just wasn't, I wanted my own dreams. And I left music for like a year, and then I came back. But you know what's crazy is that whole time I kept in touch with Ricardo, here and there, not like all the time. And I would get so angry because I would go to all these retail market stores and see all your promo stuff in the garbage. Mm-hmm. And I would take pictures of that. And I'd be like, you want me to send them to you? Because I really took heed to that. Like all the money that a company's spending. And I'm like, okay, this is where I got to get on the streets. Because you know what? Obviously, if they're throwing it out at the store on the retail level, and the clubs is the best place to get this people. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
hey, absolutely, we
got this. So Ricardo would have all these promos for different that were coming in the area. You know what I'm saying? And with the Carolinas, a lot of people travel from Atlanta to the Carolinas to Charlotte. You know what I mean? So you get a big area, and he was on top of all that, and I appreciated it. That, you know, we might talk maybe once every 4 or 5 years, but you know what? It's always something positive I take with me from that little back and forth real quick. I missed the promo stuff though, Ricardo. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, I can't even front. I mean, the crazy thing about it is, like I said, like when we were working hand in hand, because it was a tail end of the traditional music industry, and then obviously it went through that really dramatic fall where it wasn't like that. Like when I say it wasn't like that, you know, people weren't purchasing nearly as much, and you know, and people felt like the value in the CD just wasn't there. And then obviously we're going through a rebirth now. Right now, the music industry is looking at 12% profit. We're looking at a resurgence due to streaming, and also artists finding out different ways to generate revenue streams. But because we're in that tail end, when you think about all those posters that were in the trash, or you think about all those promos that didn't get handed out to consumers, it was at the cost of that relationship that you're talking about, where now the quote-unquote influencers are those who are curating playlists. Before, it was that person at the record store, because they knew about every artist that was coming out. They knew about what single was moving in that marketplace, because consumers would literally tell them and ask them, hey, when is this record coming out? Oh, I heard this song on the radio. When will it be available for purchase? And you were the point person, ground zero, for that piece of information. And that's why, for me, it was very important to maintain a relationship with people like you, because you were the one who knew about what was going on from a label standpoint, because you were interested, you were engaged, and you, for lack of a better term, you got turned on by turning people on to good music, right?
Right.
You love
a thrill.
Somebody interested in an artist and trying to find out as much about it, and you are a source of information. And that is also the good and the bad thing about where we are as an industry now, is because, where before it would be the retailer, it'd be a DJ, it'd be a street team person, and where there were so many points of entry to find out about new music and discovery. Now that may be the case, but it's not curated the same, right? It's one thing to have, I kind of liken it to a river, right? It's one thing to have a river that just flows all the time, and it's rapid and crashing, and the waves are crashing up against the rocks. But sometimes we need certain things to be curated. You know what I mean? Sometimes knowing that this is absolutely quality as compared to the other noise that is out there in the marketplace, it helps to have those people out here to point you in a direction with no real agenda. Like, while we were friends and colleagues and associates, you were pushing me to art because you felt it was quality music and quality product that you could stand by. You wouldn't put your name on something you thought was trash.
No, even now, like...
You can't do it. You can't put your name on something that's associated with trash. So being able to curate that experience for folks is great. Now, people curate their own and do, as a result of, streaming platforms and things like that, now the tech companies are now the curators, but there's an element of no longer as personal as it used to be, right? Not before, a person would come to your store every Tuesday or every Friday when they got paid and say, yo, give me every hot record you know. And you'd be like, this record is cool, this record is cool, this record is cool. Let me listen to it, this is previewing it. And then from there, it was like going to a record store or having that conversation was fuel. It's funny. Let me tell you a quick story, not to digress too tough. It's funny because my mother is here now. My mother is the reason. My mother is the reason I have this love for music. Every Saturday, me and her, or her and I, would go to a record store, and she would say, okay, I'm going to get, this Whitney Houston album, and then also not only would she get the vinyl or the CD, because back in the day she would have, the tape deck, the cassette deck in the car, and then she would have the vinyl and, the huge component system. So she not only would she buy the vinyl and the CD, but she'd buy the vinyl and the tape, or the CD and the tape of everything, right? So we had this huge collection of music, but when we would go to these record stores, she would talk to the retailer and say, like, what's hot, and then we would sit there and listen to it. And then after she would pick all the records and the tapes that she wanted to purchase, and CDs she would want to purchase, she'd like, whatever he wants. And I'd say, okay, let me get that Run DMC, let me get that LL Cool J, all right, and let me get that Marvin Gaye joint that I love so much. And, we would go home, and on the car ride, we would listen to all the music together. So
That's
my mom knew all the hip-hop records. I knew all the soul records. And she'd be like, oh, that song right there? That sample was they sampled this from the Isley Brothers. And, I got that Isley Brothers back at the house, and we would listen to those Isley Brothers. And from there, I didn't realize it, but she was curating the musical experience to what I would love to do, is find where the origins of music were, who produced the record. We would sit there and read all the credits in the album to find out, what label put this record out, who is the executive producer, who's the producer, who's the writer. And from there, I would know the lineage and the tree by which this music came from. And so then after we would listen to all those records and the vinyl in the car ride home, we would come home and she would play, all the music. So she would hear my records, I would hear her records, and then I would go upstairs and play some video games or go outside and hoop or do whatever I was doing as a young kid. And then I would come back in, and my mom would literally have my keyboard in front of our component system, and she'd be replaying all the songs along with those records on the piano. And I would watch her play them. So that's where my love for producing records came from, because we would try to chop it down, and then from there, when it'd be my birthday or it'd be Christmas, I'm like, I don't really need a present, but what I do want is, Mom, I want some turntables, or Mom, I do want this new keyboard that came out, or Mom, I want this new drum machine. So I was learning how to program drums and learning how to program and sample with my little Casio keyboard that had 4 seconds of sample time.
Right.
I was learning how to produce at a very young age, and I wasn't fully wrapping my head around it as if this is what my career is going to be, but my mom was planting the seeds, and I was planting the seeds in what my future was going to be, just because it was something that we loved doing together. And again, I thank my mother for that, for exposing me to so much music. You know what I mean? And it wasn't just hip hop and R&B; it was rock music. It was, it was the funk, as I call it, the funk in all its forms. If it was funky, we played it in the house. We didn't care. And then, of course, we would sit down and watch MTV and watch, VH1 and watch all the award shows together.
Yeah.
So that love for music was curated by someone who kind of showed me the path. And I think some of that is also missing because of that generational divide that's going on now. Like, oh, that's old school. Oh, these guys are so old. Jay-Z is old. Or,
Oh, I know.
saying, I don't listen to Biggie. I don't know. I was reading an article, and one of the artists was saying that they can't even name a member of Wu-Tang. And I'm not even saying, like, you have to be a Wu-Tang fan to be a hip-hop artist, but there was an art to understanding your predecessors and the music that came before you so you could truly appreciate the music that was in front of you. I say, again, this is a long-winded story, but I say all to say, while things have changed so much, it's still that love of music and being able to curate the experience of listening and digging into what you love about music that's so great about it. And sometimes I feel as we go into a technological age where things become about numbers and things become about you have to find it, that personal touch to it sometimes gets lost in the process.
Yeah, and I feel like that it happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Music's just thrown at you, and there's just, like you said, there's like 50 to 1 you say, like it's just boom, boom, and I'm like, whoa. Now you can see, and that's so true, because, I think back, my passion in music too, it comes from my family, and it was all, because I was a little girl, my grandmother, my mom, and it was always, also Aretha Franklin, that hit me hard, like, not... It's just a lot of, how do you say it? Good times, like happy times. You know what I mean? And she was that good time, happy soul music.
Mm-hmm.
And just her being like, it wasn't just that. She was kind of like on that activist type thing too. And she was just a beautiful person. You know what I mean? And I was just like, I knew that she was sick, and I probably figured, but I was just like, wow. And the funniest thing was, like, my mom, she's getting up there, and I'm like, Mom, and she's like, I said, how can you not remember her, Mom? If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have known who she was. You had the vinyl records. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean?
Right.
And my grandmother, too.
Those shape the memories of, like, it literally is the soundtrack of your life.
Yeah.
These records, these artists, these songs are the soundtrack of your life. And for a long time, before, smartphones were everything, I was one person who never really took pictures.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in, my first trip to Europe, I was a freshman in high school because I was a band, I won't say a band nerd, but I love playing instruments. And so we would learn how to play all the hip-hop records. I would play them on trumpets. You know what I mean? And one of my other homeboys, who's still one of my best friends today, whenever we had a stoppage in playing or practicing, we were learning how to play like Bone Thugs on the trumpet. And then
that's wild.
Because I come from Shaker Heights, Ohio again, and like Kid Cudi's brother, shout out to Dean Leslie. Dean would be the first chair, or one of the first chair a trumpet, and we would always convene and be like, okay, we're gonna learn how to play Block Him. Don't Sweat the Technique on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And busting out all these hip hop records through band. But point being, I didn't take a whole lot of pictures because every record was a memory for me. And that Europe trip that I'm telling you about when I was a freshman, that Europe trip was Biggie Ready to Die. Because I remember going down the streets of Amsterdam or being in Brussels and Big Papa playing on everybody's CD man, right? Or everyone's Walkman. And I remember, like, if it wasn't that, it was like, Bone or whatever it was, the records and the verses were my memories.
Yeah.
Anytime, like, a certain bar gets spit, I'm like, oh, man, that's 2001. I was living in New York City. I was interning at Def Jam. And, like, the whole 9 and a half. Now, of course, we have Instagram, and everything's about capturing the moment, or it's not.
Right.
But for me, music encapsulated those memories. You know what I mean?
And I think that anybody that's universal music like us, actually, because that's the same way with me. I just made a comment about this the other day on Facebook. Like, when you think of all your memories that come, every song has a memory for me, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's how, you know, the ones that stuck around. And, you know, what's crazy is even with Aretha with Respect, you know, there's a big story with me and my kids with that song. And my kids know that song. You know what I'm saying? And they would be singing it in the car with me. And I almost went over a bridge that was opening because we were all into that song so much. And that's the memory those kids will never forget till this day. You know, it's crazy. And like you said, my grandmother, she was the same way. She was so musically diverse, you know, not so much the rock or anything, but she, you know, she got me into so many different things. And it's just like wild how music pays so much of our lives. And yet people, you know, it's hard because a lot of the music that's out today, I try. And honestly, for some reason, I keep drawing towards that trap music, okay? And I've gotten picked on in the industry for years because of that, saying I would be more successful if, you know. But you know what, Ricardo? I think it's hard. I think that sometimes you just lean. I'm not about that life, but you know what I'm saying? It's like that's my music. That, you know, like, even though I can't say, oh yeah, I live that kind of life. No, I can't. But you know what? I maybe because I look for positive in every negative. So no matter what it's about, I'm gonna change it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if it makes sense. That don't make sense. But anyways, I wanted to talk.
It makes all the sense in the world.
Because I confused myself right there. I was like, wait a minute, am I saying this right?
No, but I think the sentiment you're saying rings true. In that, it's funny, right? Here's a quick example. So obviously, the political climate right now is crazy. As a result of, you know, what's going on in the White House and
right.
the racial and cultural divide that's going on. And I was listening to the other day to someone who was making the parallel about, you know, Donald Trump calling Omarosa a dog on Twitter, and how the person on this particular radio show was like, well, what's the difference between that and Obama bringing up all those rappers who talk about drug dealing and killing folks and bringing those guys into the White House and partying it up? Like, he showed by bringing those rappers up to the White House and allowing them to be in the holiest and the most sacred walls of the United States. He's co-signing that, for lack of a better term. And the parallel is a false equivalent, obviously, but the parallel is wrong because while rappers, quote unquote, may talk about things to the untrained ear that seems all the way derogatory or negative,
right?
Those people who can decode it understand the message behind the derogatory nature of it. For example, like, let's think about Ice Cube, for example, right? Back in the day, Ice Cube was one of the scariest individuals in the world. He was embodied gangster. But because we were trained ear and we could decode what the message he was saying, we understood he was more of a griot or a prophet or a poet in the truest sense. Any more than William Shakespeare or any more than Quentin Tarantino. He was a storyteller, and he embodied the rich tales of what was going on in the city. And even though I was not from Compton, Shaker Heights
right.
was a middle to upper class suburb on the east side, but it made me understand and want to learn more about what LA was like, what Compton was like, right? It made us understand it, even though I wasn't a part of it. It rang true to me because I understood the psyche behind what he was talking about. And sometimes I feel like, and I'm not going to go on this whole old school versus new school, but back in the day, hip-hop artists would talk about a story in totality. They'd be like, okay, almost like they're a fly on the wall, and they would describe the entire scene in front of us. Like, okay, old dude over there is smoking and drinking, but he's doing this, and they would talk about the consequences. A great example of that is like Mobb Deep and Prodigy. Like, that was some of the most gangster tales ever, but he talked about what would happen as a result of my lifestyle, right? I can't think about that, because my brain reacts. Like, Prodigy was talking about his dependency on alcohol because he had to actually numb the pain from what he saw in Queensbridge. Now, I may not be from Queensbridge, but I damn sure know about having to numb the pain as a result of not being able to cope, right? So being able to decode that nowadays, now cats just rap from first person. I do lean, right? I drink this. I do that. Instead of talking about the holistic storytelling and consequences of what happens in those particular scenarios. And the ones who are most successful actually do what the old school cats do, right? They talk about it in totality with some sense of context and understanding. So again, back to your point, even though you were not quote unquote like in these streets, you know what I'm saying, doing the things that these rappers with trap music, do, living that particular lifestyle, you can absolutely relate to it because number one, you can decode and understand that they're only saying this about this particular scenario. They're not saying that they're actually going to kill me. They're not saying they actually go out there and shoot everyone up. No, they're talking about the circumstances by which someone would go and do that, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why you can say, hey, I'm not of that culture, but I can understand that psyche. I can understand that logic. And that's the great thing about, music. And that's also the great thing about hip-hop music.
Absolutely. And it's sad because, like you said, and I throw it at people because it's every type of genre of music that they try to say something about. So, why signify and single out hip-hop? Because I can remember doing Ozfest tours with Trans World, and the things that I seen at those tours and the heavy metal and, Marilyn Manson coming to House of Blues and the whole church over there. So, I mean, there's always something in music, no matter what genre it is. You know what I'm saying? That they're going to try to find something about it.
Absolutely. I mean, think about this. Eric Clapton made I Shot the Sheriff more popular than Bob Marley did. It sold more records and is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame under Eric Clapton. You talk about shooting a sheriff.
Yeah, and I'm not right. Right. Oh my, yeah, that's crazy. That is so crazy. Uh-huh. All right, I want to jump in here a little bit. I seen. Are you doing some DJing now?
Yeah, you know what? I've always DJed. I started DJing at 17 years old.
I never knew that.
My mom, I told her, you don't have to give me a Christmas birthday for all this time. Just give me 2 turntables and a mixer. So, because ultimately I want to figure out how to produce records. So I got 2 turntables, and me and my homeboys, luckily we had a high school campus where we could step away off the campus for lunchtime, and we would go down to my basement and just learn how to mix and figure out break beats and figure out how to produce from there. And then from there, we were starting to throw parties around the Cleveland area. And then when I went to University of Michigan, in my dorm room, I was the guy who always had his door open, spinning records. So I learned everybody in my dorm room because they would come by and hear me, scratching and cutting the new joints. And I was always a lover, obviously, from my mother, of buying vinyl and searching and digging through crates. So as a result of that, I started DJing in college as part of a collective called Composite. And the great thing about Composite and DJing was that we felt like if you could party with somebody that you may not know, or all these different cultures, if you could party with all these different cultures on Friday and Saturday, you're more likely to speak to them on Monday and Tuesday when you cross their path on the college campus. And so I basically DJed my way through college. Every year I was throwing parties. We do some of the biggest events on the University of Michigan campus and elsewhere. And then that love of DJing obviously would send me all the way throughout the Detroit metro area, finding great records and digging. And then, of course, when I started working for a label, I was like, I can get all these vinyl for free? Bet! So then I can DJ.
Oh, wow.
Not only in college, but then when I moved here to Atlanta, I was still DJing at local spots throughout, like whether it be certain restaurants like Twist over there at Phipps Plaza or Shout that used to be down in Midtown. And then I used to also open up for Emperor Cersei at Frequency Nightclub in Buckhead. So when Hot 107.9 would broadcast live, I was opening up before the radio broadcast started. So while I was working at a label, I was DJ. So even though I was working for a label, I was still doing all the things I love. I was still producing records. I was still DJing. And even to this day now, now it just costs you a little bit more for me to put these turntables up. But point being, that's still allowing me to get that thing off. Still being able to see how records react to different marketplaces. You know what I mean?
That's wild. So you still... When did Sweat Beats come up in the midst of all that? Was that after the DJ? Like, how did Sweat Beats even become?
So Sweat Beats was grown out of University of Michigan campus. My freshman year, I was trying to be a hip hop renaissance man. Like, I was learning how to DJ. I wanted to learn how to produce, but I always had a passion for rapping. Like the first rap I ever wrote was over the instrumental of the Gap Band's "Outstanding," And from there, like, and this was like early age, probably I wrote my first rap around like 7, 8 years old, right? And so when I went to college, I wanted to know everything about the hip hop scene in Ann Arbor. So again, back to that story when I would keep my door open, I'd be scratching and playing all the new cuts, DJing. People would come in and be like, "Yo, do you know on the upside of the campus there's some dudes over there that DJ and rap? Like every so often, they get together and have these battles." So I was like, "Word, okay, well let me see what these dudes are doing. These guys probably can't rap for real. I really do this freestyle thing. This when freestyle was super real, backpack rap was real. I really had the backpack and had my Sharpie in there and had all my instrumental CDs just in case people were ready to battle." So on the other side of campus, I met two good friends of mine who became lifelong brothers, and both of them rapped. The one guy was he really, really, really rapped. But the funny thing about him is he was kind of a weird cat, right? He was walking around. He was a black dude from East Lansing, walking around in Birkenstocks with the Wu-Tang shirt on. But we found a commonality because I thought I was going to battle him, and we realized, no, we can just be friends. What do we need to battle for? How about we just write raps together? And over time, we became best of friends, best of brothers, and we became a collective called The Project. We were rapping with folks like Athletic Mike League, Binary Star, Obi Trice. Athletic Mike League at the time, their DJ was a guy named DJ Haircut, who became Mayor Hawthorne. So, again, the Detroit hip-hop scene was thriving. So as a result of that, of rapping and battling folks, we were like, man, we need some beats. We need to start making some records. So we started out making records on this little DS program called Acid Pro on the PC. And after we ran through every single one of those loops, we were like, yo, these dudes over here come up with banging beats. We need to step this up. So from there, we started investing our little coins. We got an MPC 2000. We had a Core Triton, and one of our housemates who was in our rap group was a genius. He still is a genius. Like literally, when we were in college, he built a fully functioning Windows computer out of an old school Nintendo.
Oh wow!
He's that brilliant. So he was in this video game contest, and we actually produced the music for the video game. And not only were we producing for our group, but we produced music for the video game, and that was our first placement, was in his video game. They ended up winning this contest as best video game, and then the music won as the best music for the video game for this EA contest. So that was the first point. I was like, we got something here. And people would come to our apartment, our college apartment, and people would ask us to produce little beats for them. And from there, people knew that, if you want to get down on some hip-hop stuff, you got to go to what we call 808 Brown Street right there in Ann Arbor. So ultimately, when I moved away and I got down with Universal Music and was still DJing, when Universal Music moved me down to Atlanta, I would always keep I would always keep tabs on my boys and be like, hey, listen, man, let's continue producing music. And they would still continue to record, and they would send me what they recorded, and I would cut my vocal down here in Atlanta and send it back up to them. But ultimately, I started losing the luster for rapping and realized that, producing records and marketing records was my real passion. And so my boy that I was telling you about, who I was going to go up there and battle, his name is Dia. We call him Koozie. And I was like, listen, Koozie, when you finish your 8-year program, because he took some time off, he was one of those kids and one of those dudes who was in and out of school for a little bit, but then finally found his focus. And he stayed up there forever in Ann Arbor. I was like, yo, dog, when you finish school, move down here to Atlanta, because I'm working for this label. I see where the opportunities are to produce and get into the music game and own our own company. So when you get down here, let's finish what we started in Ann Arbor. And he did it. He moved down to Atlanta. He moved in with me and my then girlfriend at the time and lived in our loft. And we just continued to produce records. And from there, from producing, we would go to all the local hip-hop spots here in Atlanta and all the beat battles. And we were battling everybody around. And as a result of that, that industry, young industry burgeoning group of, people trying to get on, all the people that we met at that time ended up doing great things. Like my man Greg Smith, he was a producer, manager at the time, but now he is director of C-Tech in Nashville. Or some of the folks that we met became A&Rs or became radio promotion guys, or, they ended up having full-fledged careers in music along with the stuff that I was doing. So my music community expanded, and all these opportunities that kept coming our way. We're like, man, the road became just very clear for us. Let's continue to produce records. And so at the time, I don't know if you remember Calvin Thorborn, who was also at Universal Music at the time. He had a studio in his basement, so we were producing records out of his studio there. And we would bring folks like, BJ Chicago Kid would come through, or Killer Mike came through, or, all these folks that we would ultimately start working with would come through the studio, and we would just get down and just cut records. So that's where it was born. It was born from University of Michigan, and then when I moved to Atlanta, teaming up with my Universal cohort, Calvin Thorborn at the time, and then us forming a trio of producers. At the time, it was called Sweatbox. And then from Sweatbox, we got into a little legal issue,
I remember that, I believe, yeah.
And so we had to change the name from Sweatbox. Just as we started gaining ground and getting more placement, we had to change it up to Sweat Beats. And, it's been like that ever since. So we're going on as a production crew. We firmly established the company in 2005. Well, literally, me and Kuzi, as it stands, we've been producing together since 1999.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's a long time. Like, wow.
My goodness gracious. My nephew was born in 98. He's 20 years old in college. So to think about that, like, he was a little guy. Now we've been as business partners and creative partners together for nearly 20 years. And if it wasn't for my man Kuzi, none of this stuff would have been possible. He is the yin to my yang. I'm a Scorpio. He's a Libra. He meditates all the time. I curse all the time.
That's so funny. That is so funny.
And and that's the way it goes in our production style. Like he listens to the opposite of what I listen to sometimes, but that creative brotherhood and the relationship allows us to continue to produce to this day, whether it be hip hop, R&B, pop, obviously all the stuff we do for TV and film. It comes from that brotherhood, and so that's what it was born out of. In Ann Arbor, Michigan, all the way to Atlanta, and now us being grown as hell. He got a baby. I was divorced, and now in another relationship. Like, going through grown man shit together, but it's always from a love of music and a love of hip hop. You know what I mean?
Right, that's just wild. Like, and it just went on for so long too. And we only got like 15 minutes left, and I could keep you on for like another 2 hours. But I want to hit on something too. Say some of the shows, because like I was telling y'all before the interview, you can hear a lot of their music either on their page on Facebook. You can hit up Sweat Beats, or you can go check out SoundCloud. And the other thing is, check like a lot of your series, because I know all you people that are entertained by television, and I know that's hard for me. But actually, when I know that you're on one of them, or I've seen it on Instagram, I go check it out, Ricardo. Only because of you.
I appreciate you.
You've gotten me into some of these. What was it? Was it Black Lightning? Is that the name of the show?
Yeah, CW's Black Lightning.
Yeah, you got me into that only because of your music, because I'm not a TV person. And then my mom was here at the same time, and she was like, "What are you?" And was it the boss lady, the little girl? What was it called? It was a while back. You did that one.
Girl Boss.
Yeah, Girl Boss.
That's it.
Yep, me and my mom got into that because she came over. She goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I want to hear this." You know what I mean? So then I started watching the series. I'm like, "Oh my goodness." So tell everybody, like, how many, he's on some now, like Claws.
Yeah, we have, put it like this, we realized early on, let's go to the shows first. You can hear our music on Star, Survivor's Remorse, Netflix, Ozark, we have music in there, we have music in Girl Boss on Netflix, 7 Seconds on Netflix, Claws more recently, Hit the Floor on BET. We've done music for Parks and Recreation. We've done stuff for EA Sports. We've done stuff for Nike. We've done stuff for Adidas. We've done on this movie called Earth the Echo. We've done music for everything on TNT, pretty much everything on the CW, from The Flash to Arrow to
Flash.
Lightning. We've also done music for all the MTV properties. We've also done music for the BET Hip Hop Awards and a bunch of their marketing stuff. And we also do a lot of, documentaries and scoring things. Right now we're scoring a documentary about the city of Atlanta and different pockets of the neighborhood. And the reason we this kind of been our bread and butter is because while I have music ties within, obviously with record labels and different artists, that's not my bread and butter. Like waiting for, an artist to say, yeah, I want to get this beat and then pay you. That's a whole different story, right? Every rapper can buy a chain, but not everybody can buy a beat, which is crazy to me. So as a result of, chasing after records and chasing after releases, I was like, well, you know what? Why don't we get this money on this licensing? Like I told you, our very first placement was in a video game. So we realized at an early point in our career that money can really be made by placing records, in TV, film, and ad campaigns. And shout out to my man Simon Horace with Fixed Music and Gabe McDonough over there with Shelly Bay. They really helped us out in finding placements and really working that aspect of it. And every writer and anybody we collaborate with, now while we still, obviously we want to make sure we get our records placed with artists, but we tell anybody we collaborate with, while we're waiting for, these records to get placed with artists, why don't we make some money off of this?
Right.
Sitting on a hard drive don't make no money. So in the meanwhile, why don't we figure out a way to monetize the movement? And that's what we're all about. It's like we create records that we want to make absolutely hear on the radio. But you know what I get a kick out of? I get a kick out of it being on one of my favorite television shows, right? Or hearing, like I said, we did the Parks and Recreation, and literally the record started. Our placement was when Aziz Ansari introduced some crazy, wacky invention that he had. So I'm like, Aziz Ansari introduced my record, right? Like that's really cool to me. Or a LeBron James property like Survivor's Remorse, and I'm a big LeBron James fan, obviously being from Cleveland. His show featured our music, so that really is the thing that kind of keeps us going and keeps us moving.
Yeah, because you guys, like, that's what I'm saying. There's so much history there, and it just kept going and going. And then traveling too. You've got to travel a lot.
Yeah, tons. That's my other passion, right? My passion is, I again, back to my roots. Everything comes back to my roots. The neighborhood I come from is extremely diverse, right? It's 50% black, or like 48% black, 48% white. And they taught us about recognizing cultures, not being colorblind, but recognizing cultures that may be different from you and being able to learn from them. And as a result, I've carried that all the way through my life. Even my household was very diverse. I mean, my mother is obviously black. My stepfather, who I grew up with, was a white Italian man from New York, right?
Oh, wow.
So my friends who I grew up with are extremely diverse. And back to when I started DJing in college, those parties I was throwing was all about diversity. So as a result of that, I've always thought of like music and interactions, not from like with an intent to get something out of it, but to really learn about people, right? And to learn about cultures. And as a result of that, I've been able to travel all around the world, and best believe every place I go to, I'm trying to find out what the local music scene is about there. Who are the poppin' artists? Who are the poppin' DJs? Where can I buy some music? Where can I get into what the culture is there? And it's always based upon music. I find myself in the weirdest places in the world, from South Africa to Colombia to Paris to Amsterdam.
Brazil.
Argentina, all around the world. But I'm always trying to get in tune with what the vibe is there musically. And luckily, that's always been a great opportunity for me to learn about people. So yeah, traveling is my passion, and I'm always got music playing. I remember quick story. I remember being in the Louvre, bumping A Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Marauders, and just as much as the art on the wall spoke to me, the music of A Tribe Called Quest was the perfect soundtrack to see such beautiful art, because I believe Midnight Marauders is just as powerful and impactful for the culture as the Mona Lisa would be for others.
Wow. All right. That now, when you did all this traveling that you do too, that is just, it's for all, like, did you ever bring any Sweat Beat stuff out in your travels?
Of course. No.
That's what I was wondering. Like, I know, like, you had to go for different things, but
yeah, absolutely. Like, again, it's about connections. I remember being here in Atlanta for a listening party that we were throwing, and I met this dude from the UK, and he goes by the name of Sway. And Sway, I didn't know who he was like that, right? I didn't do my due diligence. So when I touched down in London, when I got over there, he was one of the only dudes I knew. So I hit him up. I was like, yo, Sway, I'm in London. And literally, I'd be walking down the street, and Sway is kind of one of the OGs of the grime of the grime genre over in the UK, in London. And I would be walking with this dude, and people were like, oh, my God, like as if I was walking with Jay-Z or I was walking with Michael Jackson. Cats would, like, stop what they're doing to talk to this guy. And as a result, like, that kind of social currency helped me spread the message about what we're doing with the beats. And that's wherever I went. You know, I find artists all over the place. And, of course, I'm playing music for folks and producing records in the process. Like, some of my best work has been produced on the road. You know, I have my little keyboard and have my laptop, and I'm over there producing beats, whether I'm on a bus, on a plane, in a hotel room. Because, you know, wherever the inspiration is sparked, I want to be able to execute that idea. So, you know, back to that old school of watching my mom play those records that we just bought on the keyboard. I'm doing the same thing wherever I am. I buy some new records or get some new sounds. I'm over there producing.
That's what's up. I need you to tell everybody where they can follow you because we got like 8 minutes left, and I want you know, tell them, I don't know, you know, shout outs and stuff, you know, all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you can follow us at, first of all, you can check out anything Sweat Beats has going on right now at www.sweatbeats.com, and that's SWEAT as in Tom, B as in boy, EATZ.com. Sweat Beats with a Z. Or you can follow us at Sweat Beats ATL on Twitter. Or you can follow me and all my antics on Instagram at RICSPICE, Rick Spice. You can check us out. You can check me out there to keep up to date with what we got going on. Obviously, that's also Sweat Beats on Facebook. And yeah, you can catch us also on Sweat Beats ATL on SoundCloud if you want to get down like that. You know, obviously, you're going to hear a lot of different kind of sounds. We're not just hip-hop, but that's where our origins are. We do everything from hip-hop to pop to R&B to soul music. I mean, we've even produced gospel albums for folks before. And we've also produced jazz records for like Ken Ford here in Atlanta, of which he opened up ESPN's Heisman Award probably like 5 years ago with our records on ESPN. So, you know, we're really diverse when it comes to production. Obviously, it's not just about Sweat Beats and production. I also still do consulting for major record labels. I also, as well, still DJ all across Atlanta and throughout the South. And also, with that being said, like, I just love music. You know what I mean? And I hope and pray that people continue to find the value in music and continue to push the boundaries. Fortunately and unfortunately, I think we're getting into a phase where, you know, copying people and doing what the marketplace is doing is in vogue. Where before, when we grew up, it was about if my style was similar to someone else's style, I had to switch up my style in order for me to be noticed. I love those people who are unique. I love people who are putting out great narrative and honest work out here. So if anybody wants to collaborate, you know, I collaborate with folks all the time. So please hit me up, shoot me a text, shoot me a DM, and let's collaborate. You know, I'm not bougie to think like I'm the end all be all to this, and I don't sell people dreams. But at the end of the day, it's always about meeting like-minded individuals that have honest points of view, who want to do some unique things. I always say the thing about us and our production style is we put paint where it ain't. Like, we're not trying to sound like everybody else. We're trying to sound like us and be unique in this game. So if anybody wants to get down and collaborate, hit me up on Instagram at Rick Spice, or hit me up at Sweat Beats ATL on Twitter, or on Facebook, Sweat Beats, and let's collab.
And there you hear it. You heard it.
Oh, by the way, also shout out to Kuzi. That's my guy, my brother. Salute to him. You know, we're out here doing the damn thing. So.
And you can hook me up with some interviews too, you know, Ricardo. I would love that.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you rocking with my guy Preem as well. Shout out to Preem, another Detroit player. Watch out for him. Shout out to my man Popcorn.
Yeah, I want to get Popcorn in an interview too, because like I remember listening to his music, and we talked a little while on Instagram, like about different projects he was doing or whatever coming up. But then we never got to do an interview.
Yeah, man. Popcorn's out there doing his thing out there in Michigan.
That's what's up. Definitely. Did I lose you? I think we did. I think we did. Y'all? Okay. Well, let me see if he calls back. In the meantime, we're going to play this last song by Sweat Beats. Okay? And I think you're all going to love it. It is called Wake Up.
Gonna let the alarm ring. Baby mama keep calling. I just keep on ignoring. Always put a cover over my head, hoping I can sleep away the bullshit. Picture of some money on my nightstand. Maybe I can sleep, wake up a rich man. Yeah, my drink could be about the good life. My drink could be a nightmare. Either way, there's money to be made, and I know it ain't coming out of nowhere. So I gotta wait